Good evening, everyone. Let me know if you can hear me out there, out in the real world. So, yeah, I've got a conversation coming up with Rick Walker. Can y'all hear out there? Give me a thumbs up. No corn, no audio. Well, let me fix. No audio. Is that correct? Ears. All right. Back to the old. And here we are. Better. Everyone can hear you. All right, cool. So yeah, I've got a conversation coming up with Rick Walker this week, and I wanted to throw out to the hive mind world in this little corner of the Jordan Peterson sphere to see. Yeah. Oh, that's worse. You could hear me last time. I can change it back. Okay. Doing some Grim Grizz. And check 1, 2. Can you hear me? Is that better? It was fine in the beginning. I just heard ears. Okay, sorry. Climb back out of that well. I got off my laptop microphone back to my little portable microphone. So there we go. Yes, so having a conversation with Rick Walker, and I'm trying to open up Discord because Grim has said that he sent me something. And is your stream 10 minutes late? Okay. All right, he's wanting me to pump this again, and I will ask him about it, Grim. Let me see. Oh, I don't know how to save the message on here. I'm too slow. Yeah. I guess I could share my screen. Let's share screen. So we'll do it that way. Okay, sharing screen from Grizz. This is something that he once talked about with Rick Walker. And share. And are we there yet? We're there. Boom. Paintball for Jesus. Rick Walker, you steal the paintball for Jesus thing and make it happen. Happily, Grizz. So this is accountability stalking. Is that the correct term? YouTube hive mind agreements legally binding. Is this the question? Ask Rick for submission to the Alien Salience Project. Clint D. Well, tell me what the Alien Salience Project is. Jacob Federecci. Who is Rick Walker? Rick Walker is a successful, for what we know, a successful businessman who had a he had a kind of a randos conversation with Paul Vanderklay probably a month and a half ago, and so when he did, he dropped Grizz' name in an email, and it created a little bit of a stir. And if you were watching this last week, Chad the alcoholic on Friday Morning Nameless, he and Neil did a really awesome conversation with Rick, and we actually got double booked. And so I thought I had some questions, and some of Chad's questions overlapped, so I thought I would come out here and do a little open source question mining. Let's see. A Texas millionaire pushing a book started property management company that grew. Oh man, you guys. This is getting savage. He's probably watching. He could be watching, but is what it is. He had a Peugeot on his podcast as well as a Trump kid. Christian, your quality is low. Yeah. Well, Let's see if I can up my quality and make it better. All right. Jacob has better things to do. See you, dude. Um, well, this was an absolute disaster. Okay, well, for the folks that are still hanging on, yes, doing it live. Sorry, Flevis, you murdered the stream. Tasty stare. Let's see. Matthew says, I don't dislike him. I stated facts. I think he's endearing. Millionaire is somewhat interested. 1,000 times better than other millionaires. Yeah, so let's see what else we got. Still hanging. Thanks, people, for still hanging. And holding him to his word that is the biggest win I have shot at in these years. Paintball for Jesus. Help the kids. Whoa. So, yeah, man. I don't know if anyone has any serious questions. I'm trying, other than Grim. I know Grim is serious about his, but I'm looking back through the comments here to see. Don't see anything going on. I'm going to open up the stream to hang out, and maybe we can have some like discussion. What was Clint? What were you serious about? Here for the wrecks and the bumps. I was serious about ASP. All right. So we got some people hanging, some people watching. We could discuss some Rick Walker before Rick Walker. What are the topics of discussion in the during their small men's retreat? Okay, that's a good one. So writing them down. Topics of discussion in their men's retreat, which was pretty cool how he has that. Alien Salience Project. Okay, someone's gonna have to explain that to me. Aliens are real. Graham has already labeled me as very much more blue church than him, but he keeps me around because rising tides lift all boats is what he said. So I'm not as deep into the truther of things, but I think it's fun. I made a joke at work the other day. People were getting all edgy about some guy talking about conspiracies, and I just was like, everything Alex Jones has ever said came true, and all of the people just laughed. Blue Church is it's more of the monoculture. How close are you to monoculture or not? Um, oh man, da da da,
It's,
Mr.
half of,
Grizz.
half of these questions are from my minions, and so like I have the answers to what's the Aliens project.
I guess they want to get his. They want to get his.
No, I
His
did a
more.
I did it at everyone in the Discord and said swarm attack because like I need the power of witnesses to this commitment for PB4J actually happening. It's beautiful. The I don't know if it was he failed a savings throw in the hive mind chat on Pastor Pell Van der Clay or what, but whoever was operating the account that day is in deep water because they've made a large commitment. And see, but it's about getting young people back in churches, so like and poor ones that otherwise couldn't afford to play paintball. So it is the noblest of causes, noblest.
I know you've. I mean, I've heard you talk about it for from as long as I've been noticing you and knowing you on this thing called YouTube.
That was the only thing that
Um,
I've ever received that resembled a calling. It was
hmm.
like I knew I had to come back here because my grandma was dying, and I realized how many churches there were here, and like something, and then somehow the PP4J spawned out of those things together. Like me being forced back into this place where it used to be the most thing in this town was churches, but now it's dispensaries. Anyway,
Hmm.
but the Aliens project is the whole like what's your cosmology, but it's got the setup of you're talking to an alien who's like never been a human but has the opportunity to incarnate as one. And so he's like, "What's it like being a human, bro?" And he's never even had a physical body. So it's a way to get people to reflect on what it's like to be a human, but under the you're talking to an alien frame makes him, I don't know, opens the well of creativity. Uh,
Is it something that you've asked on like your fringe encounters before?
well, in the history of the corner blossoming into the corner, one of the peak moments for me was like when Pet Cow participated because he was the first person that I didn't already know who made a submission. But the thing is, it's a collaborative playlist where it's like, all right, here's the video of people's answers to that question. Like an alien comes up to you, like, "What's it like to be human, man?" I've never had a body before because he's a cloudiest, gaseous alien, I guess. And so, like, and just people that I didn't know started to participate, and that's when it was like, okay, so this is something's real here. 'Cause like when your friends participate, it's great because it's you're getting some participation and stuff. But when strangers
So you
do
felt
that,
like it had like some mimetic power. Is that where you're?
yeah, and it's still there. It's still a collaborative playlist. People could have been adding things this whole time. Um, yeah, that's a good one. Look how
I'm writing
serious your
down stuff.
avatar is. Look at his little YouTube avatar. Very serious,
Grim,
Parham.
Grim. It's so hard to tell. Is Grim like just talking out loud, or is Grim being an ass? Sometimes it's hard to know like where that
Well,
line.
you look for yourself and you tell me. Doesn't he look very serious
He
at
has
that?
he has a very serious avatar. Mine's probably kind of serious too.
I might be being an ass.
What
I'm
is
calling it as I see it.
that is true. You do that for sure. Phoebus, do you have anything else you want to say about this question? Just in general, what he thinks about theology in general.
Phoebus
I know you
comes
like
on at
theology.
night. Come on in, Phoebus. There's a thing over there.
Yeah, there's a thing.
There's a link, they call it. You
I'll
can.
about. I don't know how to pin.
You got to go
Throwing
to
another link
on
in.
YouTube to do it.
Oh, on the YouTube one.
Yeah, that's where you pin. Can't do it through StreamYards.
Okay, here's Mandy's got one. I'm gonna
Do you
just
see
start
any
taking pictures real quick.
pitfalls or risks or changes in telos/goals when the American business corporate model infiltrates modern churches?
Oh well,
So when people run
yes.
churches like a business, man, do you see the risks of that? All
How else
right.
do you operate them? How do you operate them not as a business? Free. Everyone does everything for free. Maybe.
I don't know. Isn't the tithing in there like from the Jewish part? You have to. So that's got to go
Yeah.
somewhere. That's got to be managed.
It's supposed to maybe. I thought mega churches already did that. Well, yeah, they do. But I guess from a business person's perspective, he actually kind of answered this a little bit on Chad's podcast, I think, if I recall. Um, Man, Grim, it was you. You watched the Truly Strange show. You gave me a tip, and then you went on your show and just completely shredded me. But I took it. I took it. I took it as constructive criticism completely, and I appreciated
No,
it.
you
I
deserve a
mean,
team of reapers. Is the thing to bring you the clips
okay.
like that's, or I mean, at least make them yourself while you're there watching the show to get enough to talk about it.
Hmm.
The way you fumbled the hell out of the Northwest Estuary promo, that was you deserved a talking to about that because it's an important event that you actually have one of the codes for.
I
I don't
do.
know.
I do. I'm still having to figure out
Give
my
it to Rick Walker.
my.
He'll
Rick
come
doesn't need the code.
see if he wants to come play VIP. Yeah, the code isn't a discount to get in. It's
Oh, it's just it's a pass. It's just a
there's
pass
only
for the
12
game.
seats is the thing. Like, and
Ah.
I think 7 have been taken already. So the last ones are going to be very valuable. And if he wants to come play D&D and have a bison brisket with us and rhubarb pie, then he can get his code from you. In exchange
Okay.
for him taking over the whole paintball for Jesus notion and bringing it into reality, it's the least I can do is kick him your code since you're not
I
coming.
sent I sent you a I think I sent you a video one time of my friend's church who was doing not paintball, but he was doing like I don't know, something like paintball inside of their sanctuary or their auditorium or whatever.
Yeah, like a single
And I think he lives pretty
interior
close.
an interior church group can do it, but the thing is, it's going to be a league, live streamed games,
Ah,
hopefully. So it's like the Baptists can field a team of 6, and then like if there's enough of another church, or you get a bunch of little churches together to field a team. And then as long as the players attend the churches, have a church attendance record that stands, then they can play. And as far as players, they don't have to worry about paying for the equipment or anything. That's covered
you
through the
never you
tithing.
never played you never played church league softball, did you, Grim?
That sounds no, no, I didn't. I played baseball a little, but it wasn't anything to do with any churches.
The reason I say that is if well, I guess it would depend. Is this for like teenagers or is this for like adults or kids to
This is
teenagers? Like what is
for
the
boys that are becoming men. Ideally, I mean, they'll probably
Okay.
have to let ladies who want to play in just because it's America right now. But it's there's not really a good coming of age ritual for in the
Oh.
secularum, and there's a lot of poor kids that'll get stuck on video games, and we could use people that love Jesus to be a little familiar with urban combat. So it's a win all the way around. But the main gist is to give the kids an
I
opportunity
love
to
this. Damn it.
embody. And does Rick see communism in the New Testament, a la Acts 4:3-2?
The Dutch had all the intramural leagues. I
And look
grew
at
up.
them
We did a
now.
lot
Look
of
how
church league.
successful they've become. You bet your cow's milk.
Team name
That's a
Boys to
great
Men.
team name. Yeah, yeah. Better than anyway.
Yeah. Well,
People,
but these are serious.
that,
All Say
What?
what?
But you found another one? You're writing them down?
No, I'm just taking pictures of them. No, but so Rick Walker's coming up, and like I said,
What
Chad
the
stole
hell
my.
would we say
He
to a
stole. He,
millionaire? Is the thing. What sort of questions would we have?
well, I mean,
It's like,
he was asking him kind of. They did ask him kind of why he was there, and I think that,
no, I'm just saying
you
that
know, that
it's like the different world. I mean, other than like, what's the world like where you live? Because
oh, the air.
that's,
I did actually. I think I'm gonna actually because his podcast is called something like "Talks at the Mansion," and
yes,
so
yes.
I'm gonna. Damn
Podcasts
it,
from the mansion.
his from the mansion, and so I was gonna ask him, uh, tell me about and
Your
ask
internet
him
is
about
being interrupted by something,
that.
or mine is. You keep freezing. I can't hear a coherent sentence out of you. You upped your video
Sorry,
quality for
I was.
Clevis's pleasure, and now it's too much for your laptop.
I tried to. I know. I don't know if I can. Oh, maybe I can go down. Oh, I can go down. I went down on my video. That'll help. Um. So no, I'm asking. I am going to ask him about his mansion. So his that's what he calls. That's his show. Is like talks at the mansion. So yeah, it's me hiccuping. I know. Let's see. Mandy says, my honest theory came to gain influence through online networks and didn't realize that he was stepping into, but credit him for doubling down and refusing to admit it was a mistake. I don't know.
So
Uh, I don't.
take
I
it.
don't know. I don't think that. I don't think so. I think he actually listens. I think a lot of people listen to Paul, and it doesn't matter what. It doesn't matter where, you know, what's in your bank account. You get something on YouTube you think's interesting, and you start watching it. And
Yeah, you think he's figured out that this is a place slash cult slash whatever it is? Like, does he grok the flotilla nature of what's going on here?
I mean, considering how conservative he appears politically, I think that there's probably some degree of looking at the meaning crisis. That he, I mean, on Chad's podcast, he's in the middle of trying to write like a whatever. I mean, a life's work. He's trying to write I don't know if it's a memoir, but like he said it was somewhere between like 7 and 800 pages right now, and about philosophy, trying to actually what you're saying. He's trying to he's trying to write it for young men, and so
Sounds
I
like
think he
he's
is
doing a
trying to.
Marcus Aurelius.
Yeah, he reads a lot of. I
Yeah.
think he reads a lot of like ancient, or classical or whatever period that is. But
No, but like that sounds like
it,
like a 700-page work. What you described sound like the book Marcus Aurelius has got out. That Meditations sounds like the same sort of like, actual literal notion, but literal.
well, I mean, the to the things about the what's the air like up there. He says he only does about 2 hours of actual work a week on his podcast with Chad, and the rest he spends like writing and having conversations. So, and I guess that would
No,
be
but it's
reading.
more like when you go outside your house, what are the social interactions like? Compared, because like for us, it's going to be different. The people across the street are going to be different people, and those sort of things like
Hmm.
dealing with staff and people complaining about staff, and I don't know,
Well,
that
even his
aspect is the important part.
I get well. I mean, he talked about how he used to be really short-tempered with his staff, and then he kind of built his company on that, and now he doesn't want to be that person, but people still treat him like he is, or
The reputation
we need
proceeds.
we need a serious question for Pete, for Rick. Pete, serious.
For Rick,
Christian and
for Pete's
Grizz.
sake, Rick. No, wait, for Rick's sake, Pete. Oh
What is
God,
this?
I'm out. No, I'm out of here. Fuck. I'm admired by the damn. I cleared up the alien savings.
Wow. William. William, dude. Why would you? So, yeah, here's more great questions since Neil's already got to ask all his good questions. Somebody else come into play. William, you beat you. You embarrassed Grizz. Let me down. Come hang out. Come discuss conversations with millionaires. I mean, I just take him at his word. I think he is interested in something. I think people are interested in this. Uh, this is where Peterson bottoms out at Grim Grizz, and people are interested. I was interested. I didn't know it existed, and then it did, and I kept playing around. He gave Rick gave some money to the Grail Country StreamYard and Grail Country 24-hour event. Come on, people, come hang out. There's a bunch of people watching. I've got 41 eyeballs on this show right now. So if you want to come talk about conversations with Rick, here comes Mark.
Well, nobody else is coming around, so
What's up, man?
thought I'd keep you company for a minute until somebody more significant and thoughtful arrives.
Well, do you know?
I have a
have you watched?
I know nothing about Rick. I know nothing about him other than I did catch some of the interviews he had, and then well, I don't know if the guy's a Christian. Is he?
Yeah. He definitely claims. I mean, I would say he's evangelical, but he's reading. You know, he's interviewed Peugeot. He interviewed a Greek Orthodox bishop like not too long ago. He interviewed Brendan Graham Dempsey. So I feel like he's playing. I mean, and even in his
he said he doesn't like impractical. He doesn't like all of. I think he seems to look down on our. Sorry about my crazy dog. If she's making noise on your mic, on your stream. He said he doesn't like some of our wild speculations. He likes practical, kind of a practical theology. I do remember him saying something like that.
Which one was that on? I don't remember. I don't recall that.
Give me the most recent or Chad?
It was with Chad and then Paul, as far as I know. And then, but he's
okay.
He had a conversation with Brendan Graham Dempsey.
Okay, that he seems to like. Did he pop into the 24-hour live stream?
He popped some money into it. No, he left
There's
like
so many things flying around. Okay, yeah, I saw that. Yeah. For a millionaire, $100 is like shoe shine money. So,
damn.
So I don't know how much he's really worth, but you know, I guess that's what the 24 hours was worth then. I'd skip. I don't know. He reminds me of a lot of salesman types. My dad was in business. I grew up around these kind of guys. They can be, you know, quality people at their level. They're just kind of like, I don't know. I feel like I get around that, and I always feel like I got to hang on to my wallet, you know. And I don't mean that personally against them. It's just, it's a slickness and an approach to life that, like I said, just makes me feel guarded. Because I think at this point, everybody knows who I am and where I'm coming from. Have I been? I mean, and I just, what do I really? What's he telling me about himself? And I'd like to drill down on that. Nothing he said to PBK sticks out to me at this point. You would think I would remember it. If it was profound, I would remember. You know, I mean, I remember Grimm's interview, and that was months ago that I watched that for the first time, maybe longer, a year, and it blew my mind. Remember that vividly. I don't remember anything of the one I watched with it. Is that rude? I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, it sticks out. I just think it's interesting that anybody, because at the end of the day, you know, oh, is he just trying to sell a book like to how many people in this space? That's not that much. That's not the avenue that you go. I just want to take it at face value that there's a person that has
Fair
different economical status that's interested in the same things. I think that's 100. I think that's totally plausible.
Well, talking to the corner has paid off for Vervaeke. He was able to scale his operation considerably. Why do you see this? A lot of publishers send pretty significant writers to do really small podcasts, you know, with 1,000 subscribers, 1,500, maybe even less than that. And I think it scales up. I mean, I don't know. It's a strategy, a business strategy. Is there more? If it's more than that, that'd be great. I mean, as in terms of if it's more than just about selling books. Cool. Say something interesting. I don't know.
Did you watch his Chad? Did you watch his Chad conversation? Chad and Neil.
Yeah, I caught quite a bit of the Chad. I do. I remember catching quite a bit of that. Like I said, though, I'm trying to remember something specific that really just jumped out at me. That said, this is somebody that is saying. It could be it's just that we don't connect. You know, sometimes you just certain personality types just don't connect. But what are you going to ask him? I mean, what's burning on your mind? Hey, that's a better question.
Well, I want to actually ask him about his Brendan Graham Dempsey conversation, because he went and had a conversation with him, and then and kind of why he was, you know, what. But here's the reality: like, even if he is like connecting to this actual like YouTube community, to even get clicks or whatever. I mean, there's a reality to everybody that's playing, myself included. So I think, you know, that to be like, oh, is he just using the corner for attention? It's like, well, who's not using the corner for attention? So I think that's not, you know, totally.
No. I totally push back against that. I'd say.
Okay, tell me why.
You know, most people here do not. Most people have anything to sell. They're looking for. I think Grizz is virtually not alone. His so-called grift aside, I think people are here to discuss serious topics and subjects that have meaning for themselves. They're trying to sort out life in an honest and earnest way. I don't think it's attention grabbing. I mean, those of us who are willing to put our faces on the screen are just doing what other people. I mean, there wouldn't be anything for the folks in the chat and the comments to talk about if there weren't our faces as cannon fodder. You know, we throw ourselves up there until we can't take it anymore. That's kind of the gist I'm getting from watching this. And then you see this, then a group of people fall back while another group of people rise up to take their place for a while, and then they get worn out, and then a new group will come up. It seems like you folks have come through this Luke's backing down, doing other things because for life. Um, it, Yet he simply can't stop himself. He shows up even when he doesn't have time, but he's fitting it in. God bless him. Uh, it ebbs, it flows, but I don't think most of us are in it to get something. I mean, and in terms of a promotional sense, we're not here to promote ourselves. I'm not. I'm here. I don't know why I couldn't. I kept talking to. Well, I could tell you one thing is that I can't have serious conversations of this depth locally in my church and stay in my local church. Freak them out. And I'm not really interested in starting a new denomination. So I got to find people to talk to who are as marginally wacky as I am, and find a few colleagues in the fight, and until I'm driven out, right? Then you guys get tired of me and throw me out.
I just think that there's a reality.
I'm getting crickets, Christian. I'm getting crickets. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just listening. I was listening. I think that there's an honest reality to
Okay.
To anybody that's putting videos of themselves up there, that hoping that somebody will subscribe, hoping that somebody will like what they had to think or say. To a degree, even, but not completely. I don't think that's the whole story. Sorry, I'm getting a charger. I hope. So, anyways,
well, look, the thing is there's some of us who, I mean, I don't know. Everybody's at a different place in their feelings of how serious the problems are we find ourselves in this society, right? How bad is it? Some of us really think this country needs a Jesus revival, or at the very least, a serious awakening towards the heart and the soul and the spirit, towards God in whatever form you find Him. Be ye Jew, Gentile, Protestant, Catholic, Orthodox, what have you, Pentecostal, Buddhist, even Muslim. Muslims are the ones I probably have the hardest time relating to at the moment, just because I have not been able to make that bridge. I pray God that maybe someday I will, and be able to converse with them in the same way I am with Jacob and Hezi. But in the end, I think Christians need Jesus, and there are a lot of Christians out there wandering around without church, without a local church life, without any serious spirituality, without much moral conscience. They've gone to church, they've had remarkable experiences, and then they've kind of drifted away because there's a lot to drive people away in local church life. And so the churches themselves need reformation, and they need revival. And that's what I'm working for. That's my agenda. It is somehow see that happen.
I like it.
But I'm not a prophet, and I'm not going to say how that's going to go. You like it? Somebody likes it? Good. Don't you think we needed something like that? Okay, yeah, well, I got one.
I think I guess what I'm trying to do is say that, is in regards to this conversation, that because of somebody's social status, like being skeptical of somebody who has upward mobility versus that, I think that's also like when we would say don't judge the poor or don't judge somebody that you or whatever. I'm thinking um, yeah, I think things are complicated no matter where
Give
you're
Rick
at
a
on
break
the
until
stack.
we know more.
I don't know.
Well, yeah.
I think that it's I just think it's interesting. I think that people are different, and in some ways that's like a different temperament more than it is anything else. And so and I think that's interesting. So, but unfortunately, my I forgot to bring my charger on this trip, and so my computer's about to die. And
Where are you at?
I
Uh-oh.
work.
All right.
I work on the road sometimes. So.
Oh, you're a traveling nurse. Gotcha.
Yes,
all right.
sir.
All right.
Well, I'll say goodnight to McMo because my let's see, I'm sitting on 6%.
Listen, buddy, I can host
McMo.
it. I can host it without you. I can take
Should
you
I just
off. Bye, Christian. You've been your ship has been taken over by McMosa.
Did you give him the wrench? Does
He gave me,
Bo have
he
the
gave me
wrench?
admin capabilities. And I felt like this was a low enough stakes that I could play a little prank.
Look
There's
at
like
you,
two people
McMo.
watching or something.
I'm so sleepy. too.
No,
I should've
there's
just
more than
gone
that.
to bed.
Well, McBo, you want to talk later on my channel? Where are you at?
Not tonight. Not tonight. No, I'm about to go.
Where's
to
the
bed.
McBo?
Yes, sir.
He's East
All right.
Coast.
I'm East Coast. Yeah, I'm in
East
North Carolina.
Coast.
Okay.
I'm close to Jordan Hall.
Yep. Okay,
That's right. Physically.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I have not reached out yet
Oh,
because
the
I'm
dog.
afraid
Yeah.
of mentor figures, authorities, alphas. Don't like it.
And so what would
Yeah.
you say to Rick Walker? I've got 5%, McMo.
What would I say to Rick Walker? I'd probably just schmooze
Yeah.
Rick Walker. Like, I talk to a lot of rich people, and I just small talk them. You know, I don't, unless they come to a space like
Yeah.
this where they want to talk about, you know, seemingly important things to me. Like, I've probably met like 3 millionaires, and none of them want to hear about Kierkegaard. So,
I don't think
You know?
I don't think that he's that. I think he's probably
He's
read
not.
some Kierkegaard.
yeah, ask him about Kierkegaard. I think that he's like.
I'm reading Kierkegaard right now.
You are? What are you reading?
Fear and Trembling.
That's a good one. That's where I got the word absurd. It's from that book. I mean, obviously I knew the word before then, but that's when that word took a hold of my kind of experience of reality from reading that book. So
I read that 30 years ago and walked away convinced that Abraham should have told God no.
that book will do it to you. Yeah.
And said, yep. That was the conclusion I drew. I don't know if I was right or wrong, but it seemed like that was how that book left me.
Well, I was encouraged to read it by a certain Ken Lowry in a recent conversation. So I'm doing my accountability, stalking to myself and actually reading it. So, dude.
Yeah, my favorite part of that book is when he talks about what it would look like to actually see a knight of faith, and he says it would probably look like a bourgeois Philistine, which is a great diss to call someone if you ever run out of words to say. Just call him a bourgeois Philistine. It's a pretty good one. But he says it so just like a normal guy, right? Like a hoi polloi kind of a person. But he says he would basically walk home from work, a full day of hard work, and he would tell everybody that he knew his wife was going to have the best meal for him ever. But that if she didn't have the best meal for him ever, it wouldn't matter to him at all. He'd be just as happy, just as like excited to go home. And so I read that when I was very much in a like manual labor mode, just exhausted, coming home, hoping that my wife had enough energy that day to like cook me something. And usually it was like, yeah, no, she wasn't. She didn't. So I would have to cook, and yeah. So that part, I love that part. But yeah, thanks for letting me come on and interrupt, Christian.
Don't leave yet. Don't leave. I found my solution.
Oh,
I found the solution.
hey, we're getting the the 3D view here.
There it is.
Oh, he's bilocating. Hey, Christian can fly.
I'm gonna take.
They're going to
Off,
need us in the book.
I took off your other one so it
All
wouldn't
right,
echo, Christian.
McMo.
Sorry, Mark. You're in a little bit of a delay. I think it's like the perfect amount to have us interrupt each other.
That's probably why I couldn't figure out why
I think I
Christian
fixed
was
it. Maybe.
giving me crickets. I thought I would be talking and I'd be stopped. I'd go, "Are you still there, Christian?" All right. All right. I'll leave you guys. Good
All
luck,
right.
Christian. Are you going to still
Dude.
keep doing this, or do you get somebody else come in and help him out?
Yeah, I've got some time now.
The problem is my internet is better than both of y'all, and I
I
also
just
like talking better than both
got
of
to
y'all.
get the comments going here. I like talking, but I like hosting too. The did you see in the comments that Fleepus is saying that the CRC stuff um, caused a fight in his family?
Oh wow! On the
So,
other side of Phlebas, how could they disagree with Phlebas? Phlebas is always right.
so I didn't hear all of the Kierkegaard stuff because my computer was slowly dying, but I was
Yeah. Well,
interested in
maybe you'll
what you
just
were
have to watch
saying.
it. You'll have to watch it on the replay. You know,
Dude, you're
your
probably
internet is bad, dude.
trying.
You're still delayed.
All right.
Maybe you're in
Well,
real
on
time
that
now.
note, then let's shut it down. It's kind of done. Well, I got some good thoughts I'll bring into the conversation this week. McMo, thanks for coming in and rescuing us and everything. So,
I didn't rescue you.
Phlebas, I'm sorry to hear all that. That is upsetting. You came in
Yep.
to play, to prank. Thanks, Grizz, for coming in. I'll talk to Rick about Paintball Jesus on the accountability stalking virtually not represent on a virtually not alone network.
Oh shoot!
Dude,
I need to get one of those.
Upcycle.
I need to get on and get one. No, did I miss him? No, they already got eaten up. Oh man. Dang.
I am gonna release some I've got some conversations coming and I'm gonna be doing a members only stream at the end of the month. So whoever got some of the upcycled Christian Baxter memberships, come out to
All
our
right.
streams at the end of the month. Thank you,
If somebody who's a
Upcycle.
member will tell me when Christian is streaming, I can come and sit backstage, and I won't have to pay YouTube anything.
Yeah. The yeah, I'll do I'm going to do a members only community promo on it. Chad Lurker. Who's Chad? Who's working Chad? I don't know what that means. Christian had to downsize his stream to a Pokemon console. Whatever that means.
All
Oh
right, I'm
man.
leaving if you're not.
There's okay. See you, dude.
Man.
Let's see. Bye. Thank you, Upcycle. Upcycle is a huge supporter of people in the corner. He upcycles. This is upcycling. That's what he's doing right now. Yes, so I am got a conversation with Rick Walker coming up the in a few days, and for the people that are getting the memberships upcycle, I have a few things backstage behind on the membership section, some unreleased podcasts that are back there that you're welcome to listen to, and I'm doing a members only live stream focused conversation that I'll be promoting in a few days, probably next week. And So if you want to be a part, you can help make these conversations that I have with people just like this. You can help, you know, be involved in the conversation by giving ideas for the conversation, um, that we can discuss. And I'm also I'm gonna have some other content like some old. I have some old music, personal music stuff that'll be back there, and my one failed attempt at a podcast from a year ago. I'm going to be uploading in the members only section with my friend Bill, who actually I'm having on the podcast coming up, and um, I am starting. I'm going to be opening up conversations with some women from around the corner. That's coming up soon. So if you want to see those early, you can get a membership. But they'll come out. I'm doing 2 to 3 podcasts a week. That's my schedule. I usually at 2:30 in the afternoon. So so I'm excited about that. And then I have a really special conversation that's starting to get into the works. Uh, we keep toying around with the idea, but it is a lot, not live, but it will be a recorded conversation with my wife that we've started possibly saying, are we going to have this conversation and put it up on the channel? So um, those are some things that are coming up. But I wanted to get on here and just, um, and part of it is because I have a list of questions, but about half of them got answered on Chad's podcast, Chad and Neil's Friday Morning Nameless podcast with Rick. So I was like, well, that'd be a good idea to come and do some crowdsourcing for that. And it's pretty obvious that there is a natural distrust of class within this space, and obviously in our broader culture. And I think that that's something that I want to press into in this conversation, and think that I'm fairly well positioned to be able to do that, and I'm glad to do that. And I will be y'all. If I do not do any mention of Paintball for Jesus for Grimm, then everyone's then I'm a failure. So that's gonna happen. And there were some other questions in here about church and business, theology from Phlebas. Uh, Matthew Parlato had one I took a picture of, wrote down. So all of those will be hopefully fit in and make sense. Some of it, is going to have to like make sense in the conversation, but um, that is my plan. Clint says, I don't distrust the higher economy stewards. Oh man. Well, that's it didn't it as the conversation was getting started on here. Uh, there was a definite tone, and it was fun because Grim he like sent the all call to this thing. It's really cool, man. Grim, you have fostered a community, and I think that that is really powerful, and it's really amazing. And I think that work that you do on there is really cool. And um, and I will take seriously your vision for Paintball Jesus as far as bringing it up and for the accountability stalking for myself, and then now. Yeah, I can't believe I forgot my earpod charger and my computer charger for this trip. So I'm down to my phone now. It says, I distrust the ones that make disciples after their own image. Well, I definitely heard some really good things in Chad and Neil's conversation that I want to tease out into this following conversation in the corner. And I think that it's really fun. Like the Brendan Graham Dempsey thing was cool. And maybe I'm too young in the corner to have seen stuff like that happen, but there's like a circuit that that he went through, and he's popped into a few of my premiere stream live chats since then, and continues to engage in the comments. And I think that Rick represents a different perspective and a different um, angle, but could be maybe a big, he already is, I think, an encouragement to this space, but could be a positive encouragement to the space as well. And I hope that I am. That's how I feel, um, and but it's important to do so, and to not think that trust is something that should just be given, but it is something that should be earned. So maybe that's what Rick's trying to do, and I want to take that for what it is. And I encourage you, if you haven't already, go back and watch Chad and Neil's conversation with Rick, especially the part where he talked about what happened with him and politics in his political journey. That was a pretty powerful section. So, yeah. I don't got much else to say, guys. So unless someone wants to come in and hang out, I've got a little bit longer. I'll stay on here. Let me see if I can drop the link again. Guests, invite guests, copy. Let's see. How do I add this to the comments in my phone? I don't know. More. Post a comment. Comment posting. Pasting. Pressing it. We got 45 people watching right now. So if you're a lurker and you want to come have a conversation about anything related to the corner of the internet, and things that you see around Paul Vanderklay, or people that have been involved in this chat, like Chad or Grail Country, or um, Luke Thompson stuff, or um, hop on in and let's have a conversation. Let's do the um, digital hospitality, and continue a conversation. If you're like me, I felt like I was having a conversation by myself for 5, 6, 7 years about a lot of this stuff. And when I got on here and started talking, it was like I was exhaling, and it's been an amazing journey. I think a lot of people might be able to relate to that. Chad Lurker, I'm still confused about that one. Phlebas, if you're out there, I'd be interested to kind of get your take on the CRC stuff. It sounds kind of personal, so maybe you don't want to, but um, West Coast, I'm driving a forklift right now. Um, my wife just texted me. She's one of the lurkers, guys. She's one of the lurkers out there. Thanks again to Upcycle for the supers. Really appreciate it. I posted a premiere that was like right in the middle of one of Chad's randos on Friday Morning Nameless, and he popped over. He's like, "We should really get like in line with our TLC scheduling," and I took that to heart because, um, I think that that's a part of trust building. Never call your wife a lurker, Mark. She's not a real lurker because she talks to me, not a lurker on my channel. Was gonna say she's not a member. Oh, dude. She's texting me right now. I'm only a lurker to support you. So she's one of the watchers right now. She says I never lurk on anything else. Possibly having a podcast conversation to release on here. And so that may be coming down the line in the future. So, what's up, Afriel? Pony on up. I don't know what the cowboy hat is. The true accountability stalker. Yeah, there's no accountability stalking to that conversation. That is just that's completely on her terms. So now everyone's playing this game. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. Yeah, she would say it. No, who else is hanging out? Come in and talk. Let's talk about the Grail Country stream. If you were a part of that, what that was like. I don't know. Experiment in the corner. And I know apparently Jacob Federici has this he's had like kind of this idea or vision of a constant chat that never stops through this. Yes, she's good one. She is the best one. Howdy, Ains. Thank you for that, Afriel. All right, we've still got people watching, and I've got a book sitting here that I've still been contemplating about reading. I've read some of it. The Gift of Being Your David G. Benner. My therapist recommended this to me. I haven't finished it. I've started it a couple of times. I think that's one of the biggest challenges of doing stuff like this. I was kind of hitting on that with Mark, but is trying to get past in certain times, like performance. And I've been a performer most of my life. I'm more of a performer than I am an artist. I was talking to one of my friends on the way on my commute last night, a longtime friend that I hope I'll have a conversation here. Oh, we got somebody coming. Who we got here? I don't know who this is. Add to stage. What's up, PK? Oh, Pete.
Yo, I'm like
I didn't know
driving.
who
I'm like
PK
driving.
was.
So, well, like I had to download
Where are you
StreamYard
driving
on my
at
phone
10
to get
o'clock?
onto your. Dude, driving home, man. I'm driving through the backwoods of Middle Tennessee.
Let's see.
Sorry.
Is today Wednesday?
Sketchy. What?
Is today Wednesday?
I have a
What is
class
today?
on Monday.
Today's Monday.
No, it's Monday, and I have a class.
Ah,
Um,
what are you taking?
hey, I just needed. It's called Theological Foundations in Ministry, and it's something my church puts on.
Ah. You needed to what?
Yeah.
You needed to what?
Oh, I popped on, and then I typed in the chat, "What is this magic?" And then I left my truck for a second, and when I came back on, it made like I was just driving, so I wasn't sure what happened. I thought, like, did I offend Grizz somehow?
No, that was apparently William Branch thought that Grizz and I were being too cozy to one another, and he called and he said Grizz and Christian sitting in a tree, and Grizz said, "F this."
Okay, I thought I had something to do with my comment because it was like I got confused because I
No.
kind of left the truck for a second, went back in, and then okay. So all right, I just wanted to apologize to Grizz if I said something. It's a quote from Harry Potter. It's like when the guy who's possessed by Voldemort touches Harry's skin, it burns him, and he says, "What is this magic?" The magic that he's referring to is love. It's the magic of love. So I don't know. Maybe I was feeling something like you guys. There was just a lot of love.
Maybe you were getting the vibes. You were getting the love vibes. I keep trying to become Grimm's actual friend. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. We are What we're professional colleagues in the flotilla of meaning.
There you go. Yeah, that sounds. You
So
could actually put that on a resume. Jeez. Well, anyway, I just wanted to clarify. I wanted to clarify
professional.
why I wrote that, just in case it had something to do with that. And then I needed to connect with McMo. When he popped on, that's when I tried it. I was like, all right, I need to see if I can do this illegally while I drive. Because
Are y'all supposed to get a conversation going?
well, we should definitely get a conversation going, but he's not that far from me because he said I want to figure out like if we can actually connect in person at some point. So that's where I'm at with that. But then now I'm here and McMo is gone. So I left this message.
Yeah, or him. He may still be watching. He may have just ducked out. Yeah, there's something too. We're all in the same, like Arkansas, Tennessee, North Carolina. We're all like on Highway 40. We need to have like a highway, interstate fee.
Sanctuary
meet
in the works.
The Southeast Conference Southeastuary.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? Northwestuary doesn't make any sense. Southeastuary.
I think
that makes sense.
I think that there's definitely more of a northern and western contingent of people.
I just mean
Minnesota
from a branding standpoint.
Wisconsin.
Just mean from a branding. We could get better branding. All I'm saying.
What do you mean Northwest? Oh, South.
Okay,
estuary. You just have to. You just spell it South.
Estuary are basically the same word. That's what I'm trying to say. Westuary doesn't make any sense with estuary. Sorry if I'm being confused.
Let's see. West Coast refugee. I'm an hour away from I-40. I wonder what state of I-40 you're in. If you're West Coast, are you an hour away from 40 in California? Oh, dude.
Okay. But dude,
well,
no,
I hope
seriously,
your class went well.
There's something there for that. I gotta dip. But dude, thanks for doing this, and thanks Grim Grizz for sending out the bat signal. And I don't have any questions for Rick Walker. I thought he was writing a book on apologetics. That would be my only question: is the state of apologetics in the modern meaning crisis?
There might be some apologetics in it. It sounded like he's writing it for meaning crisis for young men. His illustration was for like the people that are of the age that would marry his daughter, and I think his daughter's like probably a teenager or something.
Yeah, I think we need to incorporate sort of Jordan Peterson-esque sort of power of story type of stuff in our apologetics approach, if he's writing a book on apologetics. But I thought that's what it was. So yeah, that part is interesting for me, but I don't know that I have a question for it. Other than, yeah, cool, man. I'm looking forward to it.
I can try to drill down. All right, man.
Yeah,
we'll talk later.
Should be a good conversation
on Truly Strange. On the next Truly Strange show.
Definitely. All right, man. Take care.
That one was
Good
fun,
night,
by the way. Did you see Clara? Okay, go get out of here.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Ask away.
I was gonna say, did you see Clara's comment? She said this was a good on-ramp. And I don't know if she was talking about the South of Sunrise video or our show.
I don't know. I did not see that.
Maybe
but I will go back and look at it. So yeah, I hope
I
so. I hope it's a good on ramp. I like that Grim Grizz highlighted all of our mistakes on his follow up to it, because I felt that was like it. What the on ramp is an on ramp into just the highly unrefined, unedited, and very human aspects of what we're doing. So highlight those.
Yeah, that's part of it. Right now, at least, I guess. So, all right, man. Have a good night.
Cool, man. Catch up with you later. See you, everybody.
All right. So, yeah, Pete and I host a show on some Saturdays, most Saturdays, a lot of Saturdays when I'm not working, I guess, and he's not out of town. We've been hosting Yours Truly Strange. My show, my podcast is called Yours Truly, and his podcast is called Strange Theology. And so we do a truly strange show. And it basically we run down TLC of the week during the week, and we try to promote people and things happening and do a pretty bad job of it, according to Grizz. Uh, and what else? We highlight some of the broader culture. Pete does a lot of work on Joe Rogan and Russell Brand and kind of that whole like alternative media scene, and he's kind of documenting their journeys in faith. And uh, he also likes strange theology, and then. Yeah, so we highlight people in the corner and then kind of the bigger players like Vervaeke. What did Vervaeke do this week? What did Peterson do this week? And what did Paul talk about this week? And then this last one, you should go check out. We interviewed the guy who produced the Defense Against the Dark Arts video. His channel's called South of Sunrise. And it was, he edited down a conversation between Paul Vanderklay and Kale Zeldin, and did a really masterful job of it. He's a professional video editor in marketing, and then he also added in elements from Vervaeke and Peugeot, and from I think maybe there was a Peterson clip, I can't remember, and then he highlighted Grim Grizz on there. So Grim was fully alive in the comments for that interview. It was really fun. So you can go check that out. It's episode 5, I do believe. It's got my face and Pete's face on the thumbnail. Um, and then, yeah, where we left off, if anyone else would like to jump in, I'm going to drop the link again. Let me see here. Share. I don't know how to do this on my phone very well, so bear with me as I post a comment with the link. Come on in. Have a conversation about this corner of the internet, about conversations on the internet. The gift of being yourself. That's what I was talking about. And because it's right here, I'm just going to talk about it. I'm just going to read this preface or this description here on the back. Much is said in Christian circles about knowing God, but there cannot be deep knowledge of God without deep knowledge of oneself. In this profound exploration of Christian identity, psychologist and spiritual director David G. Benner illuminates the spirituality of self-discovery. He exposes the false selves that we hide behind and calls us to discover true self that emerges from our uniqueness in Christ. Genuine self-understanding revitalizes our spiritual life and leads to fulfillment of our God-given destiny and vocation. So, that's what I was talking about. Being yourself. It's I find it hard to believe that. Well, oh look, we've got a guest. I didn't hear the noise. Come on in. At the stage. There we go. Got you. What's up, David?
Hi, Christian.
David,
We've
barely been on streams together, so it's nice to connect with you, man.
Yeah. We've kind of passed ever so slightly like ships in the night.
Yes.
I think we've been on, I think, with Paul at the same time.
Yes.
I think once or twice. But yeah. I was wondering something as I was looking at the different topics you were talking about. I was like, what could I actually contribute to a conversation? So I'm wondering something. Do you watch your videos? This isn't a trick question.
Like how? No, it's fine. Yeah. What do you like? I watch them whenever they premiere, generally, because I'm in the chat. But sometimes if I'm at work, I'm just like watching the chat and not like listening sometimes. But yeah,
Okay,
I'm trying.
yeah.
Like I think that's a really fun engagement. And then I also watching my videos. There are times I watch back the podcasts. I did more early on than I do now. And then like if I'm making one, I have watched I watched some. I did more early on. I'm not as much now because I think you're in this like journey. You're more self conscious at the beginning, you know, for just because there's
Right,
like
right.
there's a new vulnerability into your life, and and so yeah. Um, or if you're editing, you know, like on the videos that I've done editing, when you're editing something, you are constantly rewatching, you know, what you're editing. And so
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
where I've tried to take Paul's advice, like, and with these conversations and do as little editing as possible, and just put them out there. So that's where I'm at on that. But I would say I did more early on, or I was watching a lot of them with my wife. But then when I recorded like a whole bunch, it just wasn't time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Well, because you produce so much more content, right? Like that's a lot of rewatching. I had a
yeah.
podcast years ago, and I just kind of started doing more and more stuff in the corner recently. And I right now watch everything that I do. And I found that when I listened to my podcast, it was the same thing. I had like a co-host that I was friends with, and I would like call him and apologize. Like I found watching myself a mode of self-reflection of like a way, you know, when you're the less healthy you are, the more you feel that you're kind of almost on autopilot. And when you're like, I feel really in a good place, you can actually observe yourself. You can be like, I am choosing right now to say this sentence, and it's going to have this effect on someone. And you like do that.
Mm.
And the more unhealthy you are, the more you're like, boom, 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 boom. And then you like have a conversation with your wife, and she's just like, what was that? And you're like, oh, I thought I was doing this. And she's like, no, you weren't doing that at all. You were not reading the room. Right. Whereas like, I find myself watching some of the material as a way of reading myself, of like seeing how in tuned and how good of a listener I'm being in any conversation, and being like it's, I don't know, I use it as a mode of self-reflection, and maybe that is bad.
No, I talked about this with Luke Freeman. Actually, the things that I watch back the most are whenever I have done live streams like on Grail Country or with Luke, or that's when I'll go back. What did I just say? Because in those, I'm like responding to something that's like being said, but in the like a larger topic. But in the podcast, I feel like I'm like mentally prepared to listen and to host. Like I come into it like completely different mindset. Um, with Grail Country or like coming into a stream like that's like, oh, I've got something I want to say. There's something I really want to say. But in the conversations, that's not really how I'm approaching it. There's maybe things I want to ask, but I really just I want to learn from that person or listen or you know, just have the opportunity to build a relationship, begin to build a type of, you know, a type of relationship in that setting. So that's why I like that podcast format because it seems less for me. It's less chaotic. It's much more focused for me. I have trouble in the live streams. I think sometimes, uh, um, you know, because there's like all these things you're looking at all this stuff, and so I don't know. That's what I'll say about that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
But the watching the stuff back on is like, what did I say, and did I go too far? Like that's how I kind of sometimes feel on that stuff. I don't know. So, but
Yeah, yeah.
you started a channel, right? You just put together Fully Alive. That's new, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think it was somewhere in the middle of COVID. I wanted specifically for like friends and stuff to collect some of the ideas that I got from the corner, and I made a video essay. And then I found out how much freaking effort it takes to make a single video essay.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so then I just kind of left it. And I started kind of engaging first through Jacob more directly. Well, it was so long ago that it was originally through what's his name? Through Chris Picow was the original interactions. But that was a while ago. If you can hear screaming, my cats
Hear
are
something.
mousing right now. 4 mice have died in this day.
Wow.
on this year
You
of
must have
our
been
Lord,
treating them
my
well.
cats. Yes, I have.
Have they been offering them to you as thanks?
I did catch some in traps, but no, the cats have killed multiple. So if you hear screaming, I promise that's what that is in the background. Yeah, so I entered through just some conversations, and then with someone who I haven't really seen active in a while was Mud Hut. I don't know if people remember her. Emily Verduin, who did. She's an artist. I can't share my screen, can I?
I don't
Can
know.
I share a screen?
I'm on my phone. Sometimes I'm on my phone, so I don't have a whole lot
Okay.
of.
Maybe you'll add. Maybe you have to approve. We'll see. So
See.
Emily did art.
More.
She did a bunch of stuff related to Peterson. She did Too Many Mushrooms, had a legitimate religious experience, and became, I think she's an Orthodox Christian now. You know how that.
I'm trying to change the layout to.
Okay, there you are. You just have to let me share that. I can. You able to
Well,
let that in?
I don't know. Settings, layouts.
Do you see? It should be right there, like letting me in.
Well, I know, but I'm on my phone, dude, and it's. Oh, let me see here.
Okay. Yeah.
Guests. Oh, there it is. I can do it under guests. Got it.
Yeah, there we are. So these are some that's what she looks like. But this is an example of one of her Jonah pieces. This is the days of creation, looking like a Mandela. This is one of my favorites. This is Jonah. So there's Jonah falling, but she made the whale not look like, because the word is not whale, right? So I had a couple of conversations with her, partially because I actually created this one myself into a carving, which I have on the wall somewhere. But so I had that conversation I had a couple of conversations with her, and then we just talked one-on-one a couple of times about symbolism and stuff. She was working on, so I worked on a bunch of different things. Anyway, so we had a bunch of conversations about symbolism. For those who don't know me, I identify as a Messianic Christian. So I practice a whole bunch of Jewish stuff. I don't know how else to say it, but I don't consider myself a Messianic Jew because I'm not Jewish. I'm just a Gentile that likes doing these things. But then I'm now connected with Jacob.
Yeah,
so
I heard you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying I heard you talk about how you coming in through Jacob's that he does critique Christianity in certain ways or Messianic Judaism, but that you it seemed like you earned his respect through how serious you took the scriptures or the history and everything.
Yeah, and I spend a good amount of time in the actual sources. So a lot of people, particularly Christians, will bring up points, but it won't be related to the actual original source. They'll hear someone else quote something and say, "Oh, that's a good argument for us." Whereas for me, I'm like, okay, what are the actual ideas that we're like kicking around in specific sources? What are ideas that existed long before the Christian Bible, essentially, and how could that inform our faith in like a deeper way? That's kind of what my interests are. But as a result, I'm also into like a lot of symbolism because there's things that are in the Jewish sources that are very, very symbolic that the New Testament is very, very interested in and will make direct reference to, and Christians don't know that those things are being quoted, right? So Yeah.
Do you feel like
That
that
makes sense.
is that directly related to? Is that directly related to like iconoclasm?
Say, what do you mean by that question? I don't know what you mean by that question.
Well, the destruction of physical imagery and like it
Yeah.
and the vilification of it would lend to having a very non-visual understanding of scripture, non like
Yeah.
non-symbolic.
Yeah. Exactly. So a way that I think about it is, you know how the Orthodox are like crazy about their traditions and about how this illustrates God. So imagine if those traditions were very, very clearly from the Bible itself. Because we do have resources of traditions themselves that God gave himself to Israel to express what he was doing. But we don't do those traditions anymore, right? Christians don't celebrate Passover. So Jesus is clearly saying that the Passover is wrapped up in his understanding of communion. And I really don't see that. I'm sorry for anyone who's watching from that perspective. I don't really see that in any of the communion traditions, like what it fully is. This is the way that I imagine if you went somewhere, you were invited to someone's church, and their church was celebrating Thanksgiving. Okay, you show up and they give you a cranberry and a crouton of stuffing, and then they say, "This is Thanksgiving." Right? You'd just be like, I mean, I celebrated Thanksgiving. That is not Thanksgiving. That was a cranberry and a small piece of stuffing. Does that? I don't know. I don't know if that is tracking.
Yeah. Well, so in practice, like to do what you would call real communion would be an act like, would that be, how often do you think that that would be appropriate to do?
Yeah. So I think communion gets divided east and west between like the east using leavened bread, like the Orthodox do leavened bread, right, like loaves, and the West, generally speaking, gets into unleavened bread. I think has divided two different Jewish traditions into their notions of communion, and I don't feel uncomfortable participating in communion at a church. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but I do think churches are supposed to celebrate Passover once a year, at least once a year. There's a period of time
I
where
see.
you could, yeah.
So it's
And so,
like allowing your communion to point towards that meal during the year.
yes,
Like this is pointing towards this meal.
yes. So on every single Sabbath night, if you were going to just any Jewish family's Shabbat supper, you would eat bread and wine, and there would be a specific blessing for that bread and wine. And that bread would be leavened. It's challah, which is delicious. It makes the best French toast. If you know what I'm talking about, it's like a braided bread. It's full of eggs. It's like this like golden yellow Eastern European bread that is yeah. So they would do that every single Sabbath. Okay. No, John, this is not an official conversation. I just jumped on the stream. But then you would have unleavened bread that would be a very, very specific thing that would be for Passover itself. And that bread is also, there's a bunch of rituals connected to it. This is exactly talking about how I could see this related to Jesus is exactly what pissed Jacob off in the first place and led to some initial conversations. An example is at the very beginning, of the Passover meal, 3 loaves of unleavened bread are individually wrapped in linen and then together wrapped in linen. Okay, and you take the middle loaf and you break it in half. It's wrapped in linen and it's buried under where the leader of the household is sitting. He hides it, and then someone has to steal it from him. Okay, and you don't get to finish the meal until that piece comes back. Okay, so 3 pieces of bread, the second of the 3 is broken, wrapped in linen, and modern Jews, you don't celebrate with lamb because there's no temple. And the rabbis are like, oh, that's fine. That piece of bread that comes back at the end, that stands in for the lamb. So if you're taking some of these like as Christological images, again, a cranberry is not Thanksgiving. That's not what Thanksgiving is. Yes, we eat cranberry sauce, whatever, right? And so in the same way, the bitter herbs, there's all these different elements to Passover that are used. John is remembering a bit too. There's an element of communion which says you declare the Lord's death until he comes again. Literally in the Passover, you leave a plate and a chair out for the prophet Elijah. You leave one place empty because you're waiting for someone to return to the meal. Someone who should be there is not there. And so one of the fun bits is you're supposed to go to the door, you open the door out and you look out to see if Elijah has returned and is like showing up to your Passover kind of a thing. One Jewish friend of mine, they opened the door and a black cat like just ran into their house. They're like, is that a good omen? Is that a bad omen? Do we have to call that cat Elijah? But so this element that you see them saying is that the meal also remembers that you're missing someone who is supposed to be coming back, right? That you declared the Lord's death until he comes again. These are just like small elements. I don't want to go into the spiel, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like we are hungry for deep tradition.
Yeah.
We're hungry to find, a path forward and into deep meaning. And that was the one thing I so appreciated recently. I guess it was after my conversation with Kezi. Yosef posted in Grimm's Discord and tagged me, and then Christian Golden is like reading a book about some kind of, I think, interfaith Jewish Christian book, but that Yosef said, I think Judaism can help Christianity. And I took that as in such a I think we're still I think we're in a place where we are hungry to know our history, because even in like the West, I mean, just our we're not even learning our own American history very well, much less our religious traditional histories, in ways that can give us resource and tools to create. Like, that's what tradition does. Tradition creates meaning. That's why Christmas is so magical. It's not just, it's because it's carrying so much tradition. There's so much unsaid that you experience through images and through traditions and music and colors, and that history isn't, I guess, embodying history, and Judaism does that as good or better than anyone. And I think that we try to make it too flat. Like we just want to embody an idea over and over again versus actually being inside of a story like the one that you just described,
Right.
like how this loaf of bread can mean this, and there's guys doing this, and we do something, even something you could call it silly or fun for the kids, like go see if Elijah's coming,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like what that
And they
does to the
do, and they do.
imagination.
That is part of it.
and
Yeah.
and and so I think that, like, I'm, and I grew up in a very modern version of Christianity, very uh disconnected from its historical roots in a lot of ways, and so I'm always encouraged and fascinated. But at the same time, I don't feel like this crazy pressure that I have to go become X, Y, or Z right now. I might be someday, because I can just continue to learn about it and continue to try to adopt it into my life and my family, and can have conversations about it. So I don't know, which is what we're doing right now.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. Well, and I definitely think um, that bringing these elements in, I compare it to a particular Old Testament story, which is that the nation of Israel stops celebrating, and they forget to some extent themselves, and they're cleaning out a back room of the temple, and they find during the reign of Josiah, sometimes called Josiah's Reform. They
Yep.
find the book either of the law or of Deuteronomy, depending on how you interpret that. And they read it and they
Yep.
just go, oh crap, man. We have completely forgotten who we are and we haven't been doing any of this. And he's like, okay, guys, we're going to try to do this now. Right. And I feel that the loss of connection with Judaism for Christians has been forgetting what our identity is, where those traditions come from, and that a lot of learning could occur through reconnecting, through
I mean, do you
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
with what let's see what John said here. John said it takes international connection with Jewish people to learn and grow. Intentional. For me, I hang out on Fridays with my Jewish buddy, take my wife, and we talk and just hang out and learn from them. I mean, that's been my experience through this corner. And oh, dude, I didn't know somebody was hanging out in the background. Um,
No, I just
wanted to
got
join
here.
the party.
I made it.
Okay,
I made it
but
safely home.
but the parts about why I think that there is a big attraction to the traditional, but even with what Jordan Peterson's conversation about sacrifice, like his continued uh, bringing that to the front of sacrifice, uh, I think psychologically, I mean, it's had an impact on me, and again, like even the idea of how to look at like communion and see it in a deeper way, and then that tradition and that part of worship, like even for Jews, like that was the culmination of worship was sacrifice, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's
Am I correct, David? Is that
yeah, so the way that I would think about it, and I know we get obsessed with atonement referring to a very specific idea, but for me, when I think about atonement, the blood, and one of the streams on Grail Country I entered into with Hezi, we were talking about this. The blood was required so that the elements could be used. Okay, so you have all these things, and you have one ceremony where you put blood on everything. That sacrifice is necessary to make it so that you can honor God with the items of the temple, that the priests were made priests by having blood put on them, and that those you make the things capable of connecting with God, connecting you to God through that blood. That is one of the things that takes place.
To
It's
me,
like the blood has a life that
that
the temple. Yeah, go ahead.
well, to me, that psychologically resonates with like believing or participating in a sacramental theology, because it's like it's something that you can touch, that connects you to or activates grace, a part of grace in your life.
Well, and I
And
see it.
I think that
Yeah, the realization that I kind of had was, if you take this mentality that on a yearly basis, just because you are in this world, the temple itself needed to be rejuvenated with blood to be able to be used as the proper house of worship. And that without that, it kind of just naturally becomes unclean or something like that. It's just like contact with this world. That really gave me a completely new perspective on how grace works, even in a friendship, is that you are constantly forgiving the other person, making up room, that there is a forgiveness and a kind of energy that requires, that if it is not given, it just naturally, from being in this world, falls apart and is no longer usable. It needs to be maintained by sacrifice, even the most basic sense. A marriage needs to be maintained by this. Friendships are maintained by this. Everything is maintained by this.
that immediately makes me think of time, like the sacrifice of time in relationship. Pete, what are you thinking? I don't want to. If you
Well,
came in here,
yeah, I mean, I loved the conversation on communion. I think as, someone who's probably a bad, Presbyterian, I have a friend, his name's Sam Tallman. He's been on my podcast before, and he is doing both Sam and I went to through the same master's degree. And what was funny about this program that we were in is that it seems like a lot of the people that go through it come out feeling like they need to become Orthodox Christians. It was from a Reformed seminary, but in particular, the conversation about communion in that class was, for me, very meaningful. At the time, I didn't realize it, but it's always bothered me that Jesus says, do this as often as, communion, do this as often as you come together. And yet, in a lot of our Protestant churches, we maybe do communion once a month. And we reduce it to kind of just a symbolic gesture, when it's obviously that there's more going on there. And I remember, and so David, your story just triggered for me the first time I went to a Passover Seder with Messianic Jews, and they started to unpack what you were talking about. And I thought, gosh dang it, we have been we're missing something. Because we're like, and I get it. Like, I went to a church at one point where we did communion with saltine crackers and like red Gatorade. So, and like, can that still be meaningful for people? Yes. But are we missing something? And I think my answer is yes. I don't know exactly what it is, but I think that.
Well, if you say, do this in remembrance of me, you have to ask the question, what is this?
Yeah.
And he did it at Passover, right? Yeah. He didn't do it at a regular meal. He didn't do it with Gatorade. He did it where every element of the meal was symbolic.
Well, and he as often as you eat of this bread and drink of this cup, right? Okay, so that's Paul, right? He says, when you eat of this cup, eat of this bread and drink of this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death now until he comes again in the future. So it's past, present, and future all in one.
Yeah, you run to the
Um,
past, how it affects your own life, and you're also thinking of the second coming
Yeah.
all at once. Yeah, and those elements
and
are without a doubt present in Passover itself. How Jews observe it.
well, and I wonder if there was something that Christian said, the comment, and I don't remember exactly the context of it, so forgive me, but the fact that Christians can learn something from Jews and even what's going on in this corner, I think is something I don't even, I love it, and it is powerful. I don't exactly understand it, but I feel like there's the other side of that coin as well, because I do remember in one of Paul's letters, the idea that there's a partial hardening of the heart, that God has, the promise spirit has gone to these Gentile people, and so the Jewish nations they're sort of looking like, hey, wait a second, did we miss something? And then this fullness comes in, right? That God brings his natural olive tree, back, or that natural branch back, because of this connection between the Gentile Jews and Gentiles. There's something to that,
Well, to me, there's because I asked Hezi this question, and he kind of he didn't go. I don't think he dodged it. I think he was just picking up on something else. But like the difference, say, between like other religions that have like other testaments, it's not
mm,
like the Christian documents of the New Testament are still like founded, like they started in Israel.
yeah,
Like it's not like it's not so radically other. It's not so radically Western. It's not so radical. It's like, um, and that's because of that context. Like I think that people that are more connected to that reality of that time and that space help us understand the reality of what the parts that we put our faith into of that time and that space better, in some ways better than, in an embodied sense, better than something you learn kind of in a disembodied way through like a Western seminary, if that makes
right,
sense.
yeah. And I
And then I would
think,
also say like that's part of the draw to the orthodoxy is
mm,
that it's like, well, this is there's tradition here that we're looking back to, very close to that time that we're trying to like connect to, and so people are longing for the deepest meaning when we've been in meaning crisis related to that part of their life. So but I think that there are other aspects to life. Other religious practice isn't just once a week. It's it's your life,
mhm,
it's your relationships, it's your how you are yourself, being yourself too, and you're so.
yeah. Well, and you had mentioned something about the iconoclast, and I do think, for me and my friend Sam, and maybe I'll share at least this clip with him, because I think he would really benefit from participation in this little corner. Is that when you look at the Reformation, um, there are things that I think there were sort of babies thrown out with the bathwater, and one of those was um, just that, I don't know. It seems like post Reformation, a lot of theologians were just really trying to figure things out, and maybe kind of in a more left brained type of way. Um, and that the story and the imaginal, because like, hey, we can't be looking at these icons, we can't imagine God in our mind, because then we've made an image of God, you know, and like it's just like that's a little bit too far. Like, we behold, you know, and there's an imaginal aspect to that beholding, and there's a transformative aspect to that imagination that I think we've lost. And I think some other aspects of Christianity and Judaism, particularly with respect to tradition and story, because that's the thing about the Seder, that's the thing about Passover, right? That it's the isn't and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, isn't it? It's the child that begins the Seder, right? Why do we sit down at this meal? They ask the
Yeah.
question,
So
right? So it's a story that we pass on. It has to be that way.
Yeah, so there's a reference in the Torah, more than one reference that says, when your children ask you, what are we doing? You are to tell them, because we were slaves in the land of Egypt. And so that becomes literal, where a child or children ask 4 questions, sometimes there's a 5th, but ask 4 questions that are all the elements of it. And the book that you use to break down what you're doing for the night, the book literally translates into English, tell the children.
Yeah.
So it's about how our identities are formed, even that we on a yearly basis are supposed to get together and tell each other this story,
Right.
as though it happened to us, not as though it happened to our ancestors.
Right.
Is you as a Jew, when you gather for Passover, you say, we were slaves in the land of Egypt and the Lord brought us out, not our forefathers were slaves in the land of Egypt.
Right.
It's to us.
So you embody the story.
I definitely think that, because even evangelicalism is trying to get in touch with like the church calendar more, with like Holy Week, you know. And again, like, one thing that I'm just gonna project this a little bit, but sometimes when I'm having this conversation, I feel self-conscious because I'm thinking like that. I'm thinking, well, dude, we've got this figured out. Why don't you just jump into the X, Y, and Z church? And I'm like, well, you know, that doesn't completely make sense, because like it's a journey, and just doing that, like divorcing yourself from relationships, divorcing yourself from context, is kind of the same problem, like, that I come back to with this when I'm poking at iconoclasm. But it's that even when Luther wrote his solas, he was still wrapped in the mass. Like, but whenever you take that and you extrapolate his solas into a low church theology, a low church religious practice, I should say, when that happens, it's divorced from the context. And I think that that's really, I mean, this is even goes into like Vervaeke stuff about perspectival knowing and procedural knowing, like these parts of our faith that we have like extracted into that the only knowing of faith is the ideas. So as long as I can line up my ideas correctly, but I'm like, that's why I feel like, oh, well, okay, well, maybe I think this is a good idea. Well, then obviously that means you need to go jump to this church, because now all my ideas are in line. Like, I just don't, I think that that's not always great. And there's ways that you can incorporate this into your life and your family first, maybe, and then, so that if you did jump into a tradition that was radically different, it wouldn't be culture shock so much. It would make sense fractally. So I don't know what you're nodding,
and then
David.
I think then you'll be able to see some of the connections. I think some of the ways that we celebrate we don't celebrate communion in such a way that we see it as one God throughout all history. If you celebrate Passover, you also don't see a division between the God of the Old Testament and the God of the New Testament. You can understand it as a more holistic thing, where Jacob is a big thing that he has an issue with, is that some Christian Bibles are just the New Testament, right? Like literally, we are so divided in our understanding of God that we don't see it as a repeated pattern to such an extent that we're like, you don't even need that bit. That bit's not important.
Did Mark?
If Mark is still there, I want to tell him a Mitch Hedberg joke. Do you like Mitch Hedberg, guys?
He was waving.
I'm
so I
here.
wasn't-
I'm here. I'm having problems with my camera. That's all.
So that's why. So one of Mitch Hedberg's, one of my favorite jokes of him is, I think Bigfoot is blurry, and for me that's extra frightening because there's a large out of focus monster roaming the countryside. So your points are still legitimate whether or not you are blurry, Mark.
That is
Yeah, I
glorious.
just don't want it to
Well-
be distracting. I need to put more light on it. But maybe.
The
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. I forgot where
What-
we were.
There was
but
something about
ahead.
story there, and
Yeah.
and I think what it was, one of the reasons why the program that I was in tended to cause people to at least be curious about Orthodox and Catholic and Jewish traditions, which is fine, like it's not that they were against that or anything. Is there was such a heavy so the program that I was in is a Christian and classical studies program. So it merged classical literature and philosophy with the text of the Bible. And we spent a lot of time in the Old Testament because it was very heavy on story. And so we're looking at story. We're even looking at the New Testament as the New Testament authors handle the story of the Old Testament. And I think what that does for you is it does bring you back to that realization of like the traditions. Why did we not why did we reduce communion down to like what it is, predominantly how most sort of Protestant evangelicals would experience it on a Sunday, why, what, like we,
Well, I think it was interesting what David said, which was that communion. Like so you may have heard something like this if you've been in an evangelical church. Like, I want you to think about the missionaries in China that are taking this communion, like that. Even that that idea this is that's connecting you to other believers, but that's very kind of horizontal in like thinking about it, participating. And David said something about it connecting you to not only Christ on the cross, but the transcendent God of all reality, of our scriptures.
The New
And-
Testament. It makes
and
communion
also,
more than
if you
2,000
take it
years.
and you make it, yeah, and if you take it and you make it, this is something that I'm trying to drive home from, like a point that I'll continue on my channel, but that what you believe or how you it's how you choose to believe about what's happening or what this is affects you psychologically. It's not just an assent that this is what I sign up to say I believe, but it affects you psychologically and how you approach what you're doing. And if it is just a representation or of something that was done a long time ago, then it by its very nature, it can't be as sacred. It just can't be. It doesn't mean it's not important. It doesn't mean that it doesn't hold deep value and meaning, but it can't be as sacred if what you believe about it is that there's nothing miraculous or spiritual actually happening.
which is
And so,
why.
and if you
Go ahead.
no,
I was just
I'm
gonna say,
saying
I was gonna tie that.
informs-
Sorry,
Sorry, go for it, man.
I'll put myself on timeout.
I just is saying that that's then how you approach that psychologically. It forms you. It forms you.
Yeah.
It psychologically creates a category of sacredness that if the belief is different or you or choose to view it as a different way, then it categorically makes it less sacred. It doesn't mean not important. It doesn't mean not valuable. It does, but I'm just saying, like sacred. Like how does something become consecrated?
How would you define
know-
sacred, Christian? We use the word a lot, but how would you define
I can
it?
define it by what I will define it by what it's not.
Okay.
So if you're a Baptist minister and you drop the communion plates, that's awkward. If you are a Catholic priest and you drop communion, that's more than awkward. If you're a worship leader and the microphone falls down and hits the ground, that's awkward. And it's important. You want things to be not distracting. If you're a drummer in a worship band and a cymbal stand falls over, that's awkward. But it doesn't induce some kind of reaction of
Well, so kind of like that
Of,
poor
oh my
chap,
God.
that poor guy who dropped who caused the ark. He dropped the ark. Remember they
Right.
were
He
carrying the
died.
ark of the car.
yeah,
He died.
that's exactly what I'm talking
That's-
about. But that is exactly what I'm
He's
talking
playing
about.
hardball. But, you know.
Yeah. He was made to not exist.
He was deleted
Yeah.
from the narrative.
I was I
Um,
was part of a film thing, and we had lenses for the camera, and the camera lenses are very expensive. So if you are on a professional set, you are supposed to hold the lens with. I'm just using a thing of gum, but you're supposed to hold it with two hands when you pass it.
Yeah.
And there's like a way of holding it and passing it and everything. And within like 20 seconds of us practicing this, it was like a religious tradition that like passing the
Yep.
lens, just because this thing had any level of value to it. It's just the way that we treated it and passed it around. It was a camera lens. It became like a sacred object.
That is
Right.
my
Value.
point.
Yeah.
That is and that is my point. And but you have to believe that and practice it and you have to choose to practice it that way.
Mhm.
And you have to be
we
trained
haven't
to
taught
treat it that way.
Yeah, and I don't know, I would say in certain ways,
Mm.
even probably in certain higher traditions, that's not even you can tell by what people hold sacred what is sacred in different Protestant or evangelical traditions. And I'm just saying, and even maybe even that's why it's kind of pointed me to everything, uh, that also it's a certain binding of heaven to earth. And in a physical thing that you take in.
Yeah,
Well-
I'm tracking.
Yeah,
Can
'cause
we
we're-
get Mark, you showed up for a particular reason. And I'm wondering what you came in for.
Kind of to put a twist to it. I pulled up looking for the reference. The scripture reference.
Reference you dropped in the chat.
Yeah, it's I saved it here. It was Matthew 20.
I got it. Matthew 20:22.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
that's the cup that I think.
yeah, that's great.
We're doing some cross referencing here, and I think if you threw in Philippians 2:5, particularly let your mind be like Christ, and then that surrender unto the cross. I think that's how I would. I'm really afraid of magical thinking. around communion.
Yeah.
I think I can't remember who exactly in a corner conversation said, they were very afraid of that verse in 1 Corinthians about taking communion unworthily.
In an unworthy manner, yeah.
And took it
so-
as a kind
so
of I'm gonna absorb a curse on myself if I take it unworthily, right, or in an unworthy manner. And I think that to me, we got to be. I think it's to take it personally and individually, to approach it like I must be of the right mind. I must be holy. I won't take confession. I won't take communion until I've given confession. I've got to cure myself, as if I can cure myself. I give my confession. I guarantee in 30 seconds I'm going to have an unholy thought. That's just who I am. So if I did that, and I would never take communion if I was afraid of being stricken. So I just think of it more as it's that I'm just, as you guys are talking, I'm wondering maybe the focus is on his cup is our cup. His path is our path. His cross is our cross. Do likewise. Do this in remembrance of that obligation.
Well, and so even within the Jewish tradition, so one of the things to remember is that there's actually 4 cups for Passover, not just one. And the second cup is the cup of wrath, and you actually take 10 drops out of the cup to represent 10 drops of blood, which also are to look like, are to remind you of the 10 plagues, right? But there's another image, is that in the wrath, you're actually taking out part of your cup of wine. So the cup of wine is nice. You drink it, you enjoy it, but you take out part of your enjoyment, part of your pleasure, because there's a part that we don't, like, we are remembering the dead. We are remembering wrath. So there's an element to the cup which Christ speaks of, which is not redemptive. It is wrath. And that's also one of the aspects of the cup that I think Christians often lose, because we only have this one single image in our minds of what the cup is, whereas in Jewish tradition, it's 4 cups. And so I think even when he says, I'm not going to drink the cup again until I come into my kingdom, I think that vinegar wine that he is drinking on the cross is the cup of wrath. He's literally drinking bitter wine when on there.
Very good. Rich thoughts. I'm not objecting to anybody's perspective, by the way. I'm just throwing stuff out that's inspiring me.
It's good, Mark. It's getting deeper in the right ways.
Yeah, and I think, like, I mean, sometimes I guess I would like, I don't know if, like, the magical thinking, as far as, I guess the context that I come from being so casual, like in purpose being casual, it like where you start kind of determines how far you can go, and so I guess I come from a place where I am like, I would like to go further, take the meaning further, and maybe that could be interpreted as magical thinking or something. And I don't really necessarily have a problem in a certain way. I think that has an actual psychological, like, definition, like magical thinking that kids do in their psychological development or whatnot. But what I guess I'm trying to do is not just metaphorically, this is my cross and this is Christ's cross, but like treating something as if it has spiritual reality that is miraculous, so that I will treat it as with such importance as a and we, in some ways, we could go around and we could proof text verse on it all day long to try to get the right idea about it, but at the end of the day, it kind of matters how you treat it and how you approach it. And I guess, but it's like, oh no, if I and that forms and shapes you. It forms and shapes your worship that way. And I don't really know where I'm going with that, and I'm kind of talking in circles now, but
No, I'm getting the gist of it though, Christian. I think I feel like you're someone who comes from a pretty loosey-goosey evangelical background that I kind of came from at one point. I mean, it was kind of Southern Baptist, charismatic, Calvary Chapel style approach to it. Depended on the person, how sacredly it was treated. Maybe even went congregation to congregation, a little bit of flex, but no deep theological. It's strictly a symbolic sort of process we go in through. This symbol is this symbol, and you're participating in a symbolic act, and we all do this together, and we all quiet down a little bit. We treat it a little differently than we do everything else, but it's not the presence.
Yeah.
In the Lutheran sense. Or
it's interesting because with Passover, Jews will take it in a variety of different ways. Like some people, it's very loosey-goosey, kind of a thing. But
let me finish let me complete my circle. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure I didn't want to leave Christian hanging. So I'm taking you to say you want to move deeper, or that you're just feel yourself being pulled to go deeper with it, and that it's somehow in relationship to worship. Am I reflecting your feelings somewhat? You came from here, and you want to go. You want to go deeper.
Well,
higher.
In a certain way. What I'm trying to say is that it just like the belief changes how you approach. Like it changes how you psychologically approach worship.
For you,
like you either approach something as sacred or as not, and if you believe, and that's what I'm not saying, like making the theological argument for it. I'm just saying because I would even say that even churches that have theology that would say that this has a higher or a more miraculous or spiritual reality, even within certain forms of Protestantism. It doesn't matter if that's the church's theology. It matters how the individual approaches it with their belief. That psychologically changes how you participate in worship. Not whether the church's confession, not whether the church's confession is. That's all I'm saying.
And I don't know if this is exactly what you're saying, but what you are saying is triggering this idea in my mind, which is belief comes before knowledge, or belief comes before knowing. This is sort of Anselm's epistemology, if it's 11 o'clock at night, and I think I've got the name right. He's famous for his ontology, kind of overlooked for his epistemology, but I think this epistemology is actually key. What you believe, you have to believe something is knowable before you can know it. If you don't believe anything's knowable, you don't investigate, you don't look, you don't wonder about these things. The reason we wonder about these things is because we believe that there is knowing at the end. There is a deep sense of knowing, particularly within the context of the conversation about communion. And I think that I'm noticing something, and I don't know where it's going, but there's a reason that this conversation about communion is important. And there's a reason that, and again, sorry guys, I speak from something of a Reformed Christian background. There's a reason that the Reformers got really pissed off about this question of what is it, right? And people, you know.
I think I'm understanding a lot of what you're saying. And Mark, I think we're going in a very good direction that we all need to be going in. And so I'm happy for the way we're kind of going over top of each other, because I think it's pointing to what is important and what is central. And we're all kind of circling around the same idea. Because what's very, very interesting, to me at least, is that Passover was the symbol that they picked, not Yom Kippur, not the Feast of Tabernacle. It was specifically Passover that they said that this is what we have to do to re-understand who we are as Jewish people. That is the symbol of Josiah's reform. That is what communion is to the church. That is what our identity is. And so to some extent, the interest in, oh, this is what the reformers said. Oh, this is what Passover means. Oh, this is what early church fathers spoke of the Eucharist as. This is the same thing. We are interested in bringing back out the book of the law that has been lost, that is the story that God gave us, the tradition that we enact to know who we are.
So what I'm saying is the story that you believe about what's happening shapes you psychologically, like what you think and feel and understand to be like your participation, and as a person, how you approach worship. And so you said something, Pete said something about like what you, I don't remember how you framed the Anselman thing about knowing.
Belief comes before knowing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is kind of what you think in your mind
it's
sort
like,
of shapes your reality.
I don't know what's happening. I almost don't care in a certain way, like what argument is right. What I believe is that how you treat this thing, how you honor this thing is more important than the miracle that's taking place, because I think that's beyond us, and that if you treat it like this is my thing. Peterson, do you believe in God? I want to act as if I do. Christian, do you believe in transubstantiation? I want to act as if I do. In that way, like that's how I want
regardless. Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good. I like it.
That's what I've been trying. That's what I'm trying to say. Like that's what matters at the end of the day, how you treat it. And
does that belief bring you into communion, actual communion? Does that belief bring about a deep sense of knowing?
Psychologically, yes, it will. That's
but like ontologically.
I just want to drop this for people who are interested in deepening this conversation as well. I've done presentations with people within this corner on Passover, and I like doing it on more of a one-on-one basis. So Strange Theology was kind of saying that he might be interested in this, and some other people might be as well. So if anyone wants to, my cat is getting involved again. My email is david.j.buzatil@gmail.com. And I like, honestly, this is one of the things I'm most passionate about, because it does to me feel like there are aspects of some of this stuff where the book has been discovered, or there's elements of it that have been, but we haven't fully talked about it yet. Where it's
Well,
like,
that's
It's
what
emerging.
that's what John hears is like with the Tamada and this liturgical meal. Like what I think about this is this whole Pageauian fractal reality of the meal and of the table. Is that is a meal by yourself with God communion? Yes. Is a meal by but it's not the deepest form of communion. But some people would teach that it is, and that will determine your psychological nature about what's sacred. And then the meal with your family or your close friends could be, or say you have lunch with with a friend or a spouse. That is a type of communion, but it's not as deep as the communion maybe than with your family at home for dinner. But it's deeper than that is this spiritual communion, maybe like a candlelight dinner liturgy, or then this great feast with a liturgy. And what's deeper than that, um like like the Passover that represents, like is like is a manifestation and a enactment, a reenactment of this cosmic relationship between God and man.
yeah, and
So
then with that, it also has these elements that only a real meal can have. So you drink 4 cups of wine, all right? So when you are having Passover, getting drunk on communion wine is a real concern. And people early on, they pour that first cup of wine and they think, oh, it's like a cup of wine. And you're like, no, 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 no. Guys, you got to do this 4 times. And so some of those issues which are in Paul, you could see occurring if you are actually having a cup of wine, like 4 cups of wine, right? It's actually a joke among non-religious Jews. It's just like, I don't really like Passover, but I mean, 4 cups of wine, right? It's like,
even that though, like spirits,
The
it's spiritual.
the Son
Well,
of
and then
Man
what about
comes
the
eating and
alcoholics?
drinking, and they call him a glutton and drunkard, right?
Well, I think I've heard mentioned in some of the chats or discussions that the alcoholics, like Chad and others, would have a real problem with using real
Ch-
wine in the
Chad
ceremony.
Chad is Lutheran, and he says he still has communion, and that's wine. And we kind of
Well,
made a
and
joke that it's transubstantiated as non-alcoholic.
Maybe it was somebody
when he
else
drinks
talk.
it.
Maybe it was somebody else
Yeah.
talking to Chad.
no,
That
it's
was a little.
consubstantiated actually, and the thing, I think it actually took him some time to get there in conversations with his sponsor and conversations maybe with his
Okay.
pastor as well. So
Yeah.
it wasn't just
And just so it's in Passover, it is considered kosher to have grape juice. You can't have grape drank. Can't be grape.
Yeah.
It
grape
can't be the
Ga-
purple drink.
Yeah, grape Gatorade is that's not kosher. But
High fructose
Wel-
corn syrup.
Welch's
Okay.
Welch's actual
I have-
from grapes.
I have
that's
2
it.
things to say, and 3 things. One is I love this conversation, and I hate to go, but I probably should because I'm tired and I have work tomorrow.
Yeah, it's hitting me.
2, David, I am Strange Theology, so I got your email. We're good. And then 3, why was it important that the reformers argued over communion, and why is it important today that everyone in TLC is arguing over what is the church?
Okay. Last question. Repeat the last question one more time before you go. Ask that question one more time.
So the reformers argued over communion. What is communion? In TLC, we argue, what is the church? Is this the church? Is it part of the church? Is it an expression of the church? and
because they understood those things as the same thing.
and I'm just wondering, I'm just interested in why it is a very important conversation that we're having today.
Yeah.
And I
some
guess
of the definitions of what a Jew is someone who celebrates Passover. It's like, oh, all these conversations is like, if you celebrate that, then you're a Jew, and that's your memory, right? And so I think it was Grim Grizz jumped onto a conversation that Paul was having, and he said he thinks the definition of a Christian is someone who celebrates communion. Why don't we just keep that as the definition? Do you celebrate that? Yeah, then you're a Christian. And that's different than a state of axioms.
Right. Yeah.
That's
then,
kind of, that's part of my point. That's part of my point. Yeah.
Yeah. And
So
then that brings in the notion of excommunicated means you're out of communion, like you're out of the group, but it literally means you are no longer partaking of the meal.
Right.
well, I
Pete,
think
that video
on
was
that
great. I
note,
didn't realize that was you.
Oh, which video?
on that note, I'm gonna shut it down so that because I've got work. Even though we have had up to 60 people watching tonight on this stream, so I
where
think that's
were
a
they
record
at?
It was fun.
on my channel.
On your channel.
It says 58 right now, so they're lurking. Mark, that's where they're at. Lurkville.
Are they on Twitter? Or are they
They're still
actually
in
on YouTube?
Lurktown.
Okay.
I got it going to Twitter, my Twitter, and to YouTube, but
okay.
my Twitter's not. It's not happening. So
What's
Who
Twitter?
knows?
I'm not familiar
I
with
don't
this
remember.
platform.
all right, everyone. Dude, thanks for
guys.
coming and
Christian,
hanging
thank
out,
you for
everyone.
hosting this conversation. This is lovely.
good.
And Mark and David, I've been meaning to connect
Yes,
with you
guys.
guys. It's been awesome to be on with you guys.
Yeah, it was great.
It-
Thank you.
it has.
Good last question, by the way.
Yeah, I've got a hard stop here. I'm just gonna hit in. So good night, everybody.
Night.
Night. Bye.